Hi, my name is Sierra Sin, and I'm doing this war photography presentation on the photo VJ Day in Times Square, New York, 1945 by Alfred Einstein. The image shows a sailor embracing a nurse in a kiss in New York Times Square with a crowd of people celebrating the good news of the war ending. This photo was taken on August 14, 1945. The moment happened after the news of World War II ending, known as VJ Day, which stands for Victory over Japan Day, after they surrendered. America got involved in World War II because of Japan's attack on Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941. When photographer snapped the picture he did not document any information about the photo subject, and their identity was a mystery for years. After many investigations, we now know the man is George Mendoza and the woman is Greta Zimmerman Friedman. George was a sailor and Greta looks to be a nurse, but she is actually a dental assistant. They both have already passed. The photographer, Alfred Einstein, took this photograph for Life magazine. He was a German-born photographer originally from West Prussia, now known as Poland. He studied at Berlin University from 1913 until 1916 and served in the Army during World War I between 1916 and 1918. After the war, while employed as a button and belt salesman in Berlin, he taught himself photography and worked as a freelance photojournalist. In 1929, he received his first assignment that would launch his professional career, the Nobel Prize ceremony in Stockholm. From 1929 to 1935, he was a full-time photojournalist for the Pacific and Atlantic Picture Agency, later part of the Associated Press, and contributed to other picture magazines in Berlin and Paris. In 1935, he came to the United States, where he freelanced for Harper Bazaar, Vogue, Town and Country, and other publications. In 1936, Henry Luce hired him along with 3 other staff photographers for the New Life magazine. Einstein remained at Life for the next 40 years and was active as a photojournalist into his 80s. Unlike many photojournalists in the post-war period, he was not associated with a particular kind of event or geographic area. He was a generalist. And here are some other photos he took showing his diversity as a photographer. One principle of design the photographer used was contrast. He said he saw the sailor in a dark uniform kissing people spontaneously. He waited until he reached the nurse in the white uniform to capture this photo. He knew the 2 contrasting uniforms would make for a striking image. He also uses emphasis, an element of design, when photographing these 2 straight on, making them the focal point of this photograph. These 2 are clearly the main subject as they are in focus and in the middle. He also uses the element of space. He shot the picture wide enough to get the crowd and buildings in the background. The element of space helps us understand this photo was taken in a large city and that people were out in the streets celebrating. It was not just these 2 having a romantic kiss. I don't think it would have been as great of a picture if it had been cropped in to where we just saw the 2 kissing and not the scene around them. The intended emotional response for this photograph is pure excitement over the ending of World War II. This was an amazing time for American people. The streets were filled with people celebrating this wonderful news. The intended audience for this photograph was the American public. The photograph became famous after being published in Life magazine. This is a defining image of the American century, one that expressed joy of a nation at its moment of greatest triumph. As you see here, you can see inside of the Life magazine where other photographers had taken pictures across other cities. This image is powerful because it shows 2 occupations, a sailor and a nurse, that you think of when in war. It also shows that life can be happy again. because as you see here, during the early 40s, life was very hard for people because they were just getting out of the Great Depression, and now their lives were consumed by the war and rations. Every scrap of cotton, rubber, or anything they had to be spared for the war. People had to have victory gardens, what we would call a community garden, because all the grocery stores and other foods were sent to the soldiers. Many people did not have basic necessities, and women had to go to work because the men had to go off and fight. This photograph represents the American people now, having not to worry about the war. There are two separate photographs of this moment, one taken by Alfred Einstein on the right, and the other taken by Lieutenant Victor Horganza on the left. Some people think this was a staged photo because of this, but really there were so many photojournalists out in the streets trying to capture people's reactions to the end of World War II, and two people happened to capture this exact moment at a different angle.